Under her leadership, Copia has recovered over 1 million pounds of food and will feed 2 million people this year with high-quality food that would otherwise have been wasted. So if we have any leftover food, we'll be sure to give that to you too. The company has managed food recovery from high-profile events, including Super Bowl 50 and the Oscars. Most recently, Copia served food alongside and directly to first responders to the California wildfires. Copia has been named as one of the top 3 women-led startups in America, woo! And one of the top 8 startups graduating from Y Combinator. Komal graduated from Berkeley with honors and was recently awarded the University of California's Global Food Changemaker 2016 Social Entrepreneur of the Year, Outside Magazine's 30 Under 30, and a 2017 MIT Solver. She was also named by Fast Company as one of the most creative people in business and by Toyota as Toyota's mother of invention. She has been highlighted by Marie Claire as one of the most powerful and impactful women in business and was recently honored with the Nelson Mandela Humanitarian Award. Now let's welcome Komal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the most merciful, the most beneficial, thank you for bringing us all back together today. My name is Komal Ahmad, and I'm thrilled to be back on campus, reconnecting with old friends, some of whom I haven't seen in years, but are still the nearest and dearest to my heart and du'as. And it's especially nice to see everyone when they are not grumpy and fasting anymore. Hashtag you're not you when you're hungry. Hashtag eat a Snickers. But in all seriousness, Ramadan reminds us that despite the pangs of hunger we feel, we have the luxury of knowing that at sunrise and sunset, we will have food to eat. It's a month-long reminder of how much we have to be grateful for, and also how much we take for granted. We feel hunger for only 30 days, yet all around the world, including in our own communities, millions feel it every single day. The sun never sets on their hunger. And this is also why Ramadan is my favorite time of the year. It reminds me of the very reason I started Copia, a technology company to solve both hunger and food waste across America, and inshallah, the world. And it was my time here at Cal that led me to founding Copia. My journey began a few years ago when I was a student at Berkeley here, and I was walking down Telegraph Avenue when I encountered a homeless man who was begging for food. And something about him compelled me to stop and invite him to join me for lunch. And during lunch, he sat across from me, just like you are, scarfing down his food. So he was unbelievably hungry, and in between bites, he shared his story. He said, "My name is John. I just came back from my second tour in Iraq. I've been waiting weeks for my military benefits to kick in. And because they haven't, I haven't eaten in 3 days." Imagine 3 whole days without food. No iftar for John, just fasting. Adding insult to injury, right across the street, Berkeley's dining hall is throwing away thousands of pounds of perfectly edible food. It was that very stark reality of those who have and waste, and those who are in need and starve, and those 2 people right across the street from one another. Like many of you, I have brown parents who never failed to remind me, "Hey Komal, don't throw away your food. People are starving in Pakistan." Though well-intentioned and true, what I realized after my lunch with John was that people go hungry, not just in the poorest nations in the world, but also in some of the wealthiest. Here in the Bay Area, 1 in 4 don't know where their next meal is coming from. Meanwhile, over 365 million pounds of perfectly edible food are wasted every single day. And to wrap your brain around that number, imagine the world's largest football stadium filled to its absolute brim, not with last night's pad thai or this morning's sapni roti, but untouched, unopened, amazing food. That's how much food goes wasted every single day in America. How is it that in a world with so much wealth, so much abundance, so much technology, so much innovation, so many people still go hungry? My company, Copia, has deemed hunger the world's dumbest problem. Because we know that it's not a lack of food that's the issue. It's just an ineffective distribution of that food. So hunger is not a scarcity problem, it's a logistics problem. And resolving the disparity between excess and access has become my life's mission and Copia's purpose. We built our platform to solve both hunger and food waste across America, and eventually, the world. Had I never reached out to that homeless veteran, had I never looked up from my phone, had I never unplugged from my own reality, Copia would not exist. That day I fed one man. Because of his story, by the end of this year, Copia will have fed over 2 million people. Now, what I just told you is called a founder story. Every startup has one. We look back at my life as the young, female, immigrant founder of Copia and pick out the rosy bits. We draw a straight line from minor struggles to wild success, like a Pakistani girl's version of Hamilton. But even the rosy bits have their thorns. So instead of the idolized founder story, I thought it would be more useful to share what my life plans were after I graduated Cal, and a few of the lessons I learned when those plans went to complete shit. My parents escaped extreme poverty and brought me to America when I was 2 years old. They worked incredibly hard to provide for my brothers and me. They wanted nothing more than a safe and secure future for all of us. So they laid out 4 very distinct career options from an early age. Doctor, lawyer, engineer, or complete failure. I always wanted to be a Bollywood actress. As you now know, I ended up doing something far more realistic, like solving world hunger. But growing up as the only daughter of immigrant parents, I did what was expected of me and pursued the physician's track. By the time I was 18, I had planned out my entire life. Study biology at Berkeley, become a doctor by 25, and marry the love of my life and have my first kid at the age of 28. Well, I'm 28. I'm happily single. I don't have any kids. And I'm definitely not a doctor. Though I will admit, I have fallen in love. Just not with a person, but an idea. So the first lesson I learned after leaving Cal was to write in pencil. Preferably one with a very big eraser. I had wanted to be a doctor for as long as I could remember. I was on that path. And yet it was this one random lunch with a hungry veteran that changed the entire trajectory of my life and ultimately led me to finding my true purpose, my reason for being. New grads, remember, you can make all the life plans you want. Just be sure not to write them in permanent ink. Draw them up in pencil, where you can erase them, challenge them, change them, and improve them as life unfolds. Nobody, not even you, can predict who or where you'll be when you're 5 years from now, let alone 10. So in the spring of 2014, despite my noble ambitions, my tiny organization, back then, just a nonprofit, wasn't changing the world. Not even close. In fact, I was barely changing Berkeley. After 3 years, I was tired. Tired of struggling to fundraise, tired of sleeping on my friends' floors, tired of living on a box of cheese board pizza a week. That, combined with the long, painful months of friends and family, and even those pesky uncles and aunties, speaking my auntie, telling me to find a real job. I lost my fire. I lost my passion. Before takeoff, flight attendants tell you to put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others. Who's telling me? I don't know. Thank you. Okay. I'll just speak very loudly. Before takeoff, flight attendants tell you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. You can't save your friend if you're dead, and I couldn't solve world hunger, working 16 hours a day alone and drained of my own will to carry on. I needed a pause, a reset, hell, I needed a paycheck. It was finally time to put on my own oxygen mask. In July 2014, I got a job offer from Google. I remember calling my parents and them being overjoyed. Well, if you're not going to be a doctor, you might as well work at Google. After the grind I had just been through, it was a dream come true. At least it should have been. My official title at Google was Account Technology Strategist. My real job, however, was listening to small business owners tell me how much they hated Google, how much they hated me, and how they felt we had cheated them out of their money. I felt more like an account technology therapist than anything else. I sat there and listened to their complaints 8 hours a day, every day. The oxygen mask I thought would help me breathe was suffocating me instead. My performance was evaluated on customer surveys, how many calls I'd take in a day, how many angry customer emails I would answer, and how quickly I could answer them. These were not the metrics of a life I was interested in living. Don't get me wrong, Google is an amazing company, but this job just wasn't for me. My performance showed my lack of enthusiasm about the job. After 6 months at Google, I was fired. My oxygen mask failed. My tiny world imploded. My life hit rock bottom. It was 2.5 years after graduating with honors from UC Berkeley, and my whole life in front of me. I had been fired from an entry-level job answering phones. I remember calling my mother and in between tears telling her that I was a complete failure and that I just didn't want to live anymore. I was so embarrassed and ashamed I didn't even tell my father until last year. I was selected to give the commencement speech at Cal Poly. I figured it'd be best that I have 10,000 other people around when I told him. In hindsight, it may not have been the best place to announce that sort of thing, but I figured it would soften the blow. Lesson number 2. As it turns out, getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was a jarring experience. The feeling of failure shakes you to your very core, casting you into the darkness and self-doubt. However, it is in this darkness that you are liberated to find who you really are and what sustains you when all else has withered away. Because I had hit rock bottom, I was freed from my fears, my doubt, and the burden of high expectations. My heart said, screw being afraid. It's time to do something that matters. So brothers and sisters, have faith that rock bottom can become the very foundation of which you build your new life. Know that if you can look up, you can get up. A few weeks later, I finally dragged myself out of bed and began searching for my next job. I spent my days at the library. It was the only place where the Wi-Fi was good enough to search for jobs, but also not good enough to stream Netflix. After a long day at the library, applying for dozens of fancy title jobs I wasn't particularly excited about, I passed an unusually long line of people outside of church and watched them leave with bags of food. It was a food pantry. I was confused. Most of the patrons didn't look homeless. In fact, some of them wore suits. Some I even recognized as students from the library. But this was Silicon Valley, one of the wealthiest areas not just in our country, but on the planet. People I would never have imagined went hungry every single day. I felt my past knocking on my door, the idea I fell in love with so long ago. Before I knew it, I was back volunteering at that food pantry. I was on the front lines again, handing out food, feeding people. They weren't just numbers and statistics to me, but the true faces of resilience, of the human spirit. They were survivors. I soon started collecting extra food from my friends' food trucks and delivering it to local nonprofits. Then I contacted a few conference organizers for their excess food, and that ended up with us feeding tens of thousands of people every week. It still wasn't easy. I am trying to solve world hunger, after all. But I had grown from my mistakes, and I took a different route this time. This time, I started a for-profit company called Copia. I knew now that I couldn't do it alone, and so I started by recruiting a team around the mission. I had no money to pay them, which ended up being a great filter to finding the people that truly believed what I believed. Incredible humans who are still with me today. Fast forward to us partnering with the Super Bowl where we recovered over 14 tons of food. And 14 tons is like 4 16-foot refrigerated trucks filled not with pizza and popcorn, but filet mignon, lobster rolls, $300 cheeses, pulled pork sandwiches. Clearly not our jam, but incredible food for the 23,000 people we fed that weekend. This year, we'll feed 2 million people, enough to fill up 24 NFL stadiums. Think about that. These days, Berkeley can't even fill up one NFL stadium. Lesson number 3, passion does not equate to success. Brothers and sisters, I hope you remember that passion alone is not enough. Your flames of passion can be extinguished when confronted with the inevitable obstacles that come your way. You need to be more than passionate. Be hungry, at least metaphorically. Passion is what gets you started, but it's that hunger that keeps you going. Hunger is that insatiable drive that enables you to work towards a cause greater than yourself. So ask yourselves, after all these years, what are you hungry for? There's another lesson here. You can't do this alone. So grads, as you leave these halls, continue to surround yourself with the very best people. Whether that's our community, or your team, your friends, or your family, with their help and your resolve, you will overcome whatever challenges come your way. And speaking of surrounding yourself with the very best people, I know a pretty cool company that's hiring. Cough, cough, gocopia.com/jobs. I repeat, gocopia.com/jobs. And if you're a head of engineering, holler at me after. So I told you my founder story, and now you've heard the real story. The beginning is the same, as is the outcome. But what's in the middle, the journey, that's where all the tough lessons happen. It is impossible to go through life without failing. But like Rocky taught us all, life isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. Had I still been at Google, none of this would have happened. What felt like a setback at the time was really a setup for something that was far greater than me. So brothers and sisters, what I've learned the most these past few years is that if you want to push the boundaries of conventional thinking to create something new, you will face extended periods of grinding self-doubt and failure. And when you get there, because you will get there, you will scroll through social media and see everyone else moving along just fine. You'll wonder why you're the only one failing, the only one falling behind. You'll have to confront your fear of failure, of what people, including your parents, and those uncle and aunties from the mosque, will think and say. It's not a one-time thing, as if one day you start volunteering at a food pantry and then bam, you're at the Super Bowl. Time after time, you will have to make the same difficult decisions, to take the risk, chase the dream, follow your heart. I want you all to pursue what you love with everything that you have, trusting beyond all reason that your hunger will carry you through to your success. The only way to let your failures define you is if you stop moving forward. No matter what happens, keep moving forward. Inshallah, whatever it is, you will get through it. I'm living proof of that. If I can be here, so can you. Over the month of Ramadan, we have had time to consider the tremendous blessings that we have been given. Graduating from Berkeley is an incredible honor, but with that comes an immense responsibility to do more, be more, achieve more. The future of this nation and the future of our planet depends on your ability to tackle problems with grit, determination, and compassion. Brothers and sisters, I ask you to make your mark not on history, but on the future. And with that, class of 2018 and my dear, dear alumni, grab your pencil, build your team, and keep moving forward. Welcome home, everyone, and go Bears.
Thank you so much.